Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Fairy Tale 100 Years Quest, Chapter 71. We last left our heroes, our three groups, each ran into a specific member of the Moonlit Beauty Gods, Celine's seeming like lieutenant organization. Wendy and Erza and Carla met Yoko, after learning a little bit about the spiritual arts, which seems to be how magic works in Alentir, and specifically the compound Superior seems to work as the counterpart to Ether Nano. But then they encountered Yoko and kind of, started to square off. Gray and Natsu ran into Hakune, I think was her name. And then Lucy and Taurus ran into, I don't quite remember her name. I think it was something like, Mimi. Mimi was her name. Who was very buff and very into Lucy. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we left off last time. So let's jump right on into Chapter 71, Spiritual Arts. And our picture here is of human Carla, on this very kind of, cartoony background with Happy's back there. She comes on just a bit strong, but she's still a total cutie. Okay. Anyway, we open where we left off, with Lucy and Taurus, facing off with Mimi. And Lucy tells Taurus, "She's huge. I'm sure she's a power type." And Taurus responds, "When it comes to power, just leave it to me. Moo!" And he goes to attack Mimi, and Mimi comes for him. The two of them, grapple. And Taurus shouts, "Moo!" And Mimi is just, stone-faced, stares back at him. And we can see that, Taurus is starting to sweat, he's being pushed back, and Mimi is just not even showing any emotion on her face. And Lucy shouts, "No way! She can overpower Taurus? In that case, Star Dress, Taurus form." She changes into her Star Dress. "If the two of us push..." That's your plan? She just pushes Taurus along. The two of them try to fight back. And they're both putting in all of their efforts. Mimi is living up to her title of immovable. She just looks down on them. Pitiful. And then slams Taurus and Lucy into the ground. Wah! Kya! Lucy-san! Lucy is, fading away, or Taurus is, I think he's disappearing in his normal spirit world form, or normal spirit world way. But yeah, he's kind of disappearing, and Lucy calls out, "Taurus!" And just then, Mimi sees, the Taurus' Star Dress form puts Lucy in a bikini top. And Mimi sees that. She kind of blushes. "That's hot. But I won't lose. Not for Celine-sama's sake." And I guess that's the first time she mentions Celine to Lucy. Because she asks, "Celine? She's Celine's minion?" "A movable sword." And we see... I'm not quite sure. So, basically, there's this whole swath of the forest is all cut down at once. It shows how powerful Mimi is. The question is that Lucy was not really near any trees when she fell earlier, and it's not quite clear when she moved back to the trees. It feels like she just kind of went back there for the sole purpose of setting up this panel right here, which is a cool panel, I will say. But it's how did it end up like that? I don't know. It's a minor quibble in the end. But anyway, we see Lucy's, panicked reaction to all of the trees just falling around her. "The trees! What kind of magic is this?" And Mimi responds, "These are spiritual arts. The power of tempering one's mind through discipline." And Lucy just glares at Mimi as we swap to Natsu and Gray. And I think Hakune, I'm pretty sure was her name, just stares them down. Serenely. And Gray says, "I don't like the idea of two guys against one girl." I mean, that's kind of sexist of you, Gray. I mean, that just doesn't really seem to be a concept that's ever come up in Fairy Tale, especially given the women of Fairy Tale. This is a guy who has known Erza since he was 7. ish, at least. Like, is he really upset, really concerned about two guys versus one girl? I mean, that just doesn't really seem in character. Um, but Natsu asks, really? I don't care if it's a guy or a girl, but yeah, two against one doesn't sound fair. I'm glad Natsu's here to remind us this is a battle shonen. People fight. Um, but Happy's a little annoyed. I'm here too, you know. And Hakune responds, do not worry yourselves. There are plenty more people here after all. And she summons, we see out of the snow comes these mounds. This might be the kind of superior people we saw with Wendy and Erza. But Natsu looks at them. What? Someone's coming out of the ground. The snow fairy toys with the women sleeping in the depths of your hearts. Oh. She creates a Juvia. Okay. And the fake Juvia, like, clings onto Gray's arm. Gray-sama. Juvia? Why are you here? Because Juvia is Gray-sama's, right? You're cold. I'm shocked that Gray can be affected by the cold, given who he is. Is this a doll made of snow? We see, like, everyone. We see Lucy, Lisana, Mira, Erza, Kana, Wendy, all clinging on to Natsu. Which is interesting, because I saw Gray and Juvia here, and instantly assumed that the women sleeping in the depths of your heart would be referring to romance. So I was curious, given that Mashima, as much as, NaLu diehards insist that, like, there's this big romantic like, statements between Natsu and Lucy, has always been kind of up to interpretation, as to how Natsu views Lucy. If there is romance there, if it's just friendship. And then here, we see, 6 girls with Natsu, as Gray reacts, you have so many! And maybe you could argue, I mean, maybe if you just looked at Lisana and Lucy, and maybe Erza, possibly, I guess, you could argue that, maybe Natsu has been into all of them, or something, especially Lucy and Lisana. But, like, Mira's pushing it. Maybe, like, a childhood crush on Mira. Maybe. Kana seems completely out of left field. Wendy is just what the fuck. So I'm curious what all of this is getting at. Happy, meanwhile, is being attacked by a version of Carla and Toka. Happy-sama, and he just kind of creepy laughs. And Gray's just kind of put off by that. The women in your heart soak up your lives. And Juvia, like, rubs up against Gray. Gray-sama! The fake Lucy says, here you go, Natsu. Touch me as much as you like. Lisana says, when I was little, I could have been your bride, Natsu. I'm glad we're kind of, remembering that NaLi exists, given that Mashima kind of forgot post-Edalus. And then Erza, Natsu, let's take a bath together again. Yeah, let's spend time together naked. And Wendy, Natsu sounds like an older brother to me. That's, like, just a really weird thing, because we see, Lucy and Lisana and Erza are all specifically romantic/sexual, and then Wendy is, thankfully, specifically sibling. So the question I'm wondering is, what exactly is the bounds of this power? Because if it's not romance, which the fact that Wendy and Kana and Mira and Erza are all there implies it is not romance, why does Gray only get Juvia and not, like, or maybe if we're just having every woman that's important to each of the characters, then certainly or maybe Altir. Yeah, those are the two. I ran out of 2. Anyway, all of them are just kind of clinging on to Natsu. Natsu, 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 Natsu-san, Natsu. We see Natsu is just kind of very uncomfortable with all this, which, as a big Natsu's aromantic kind of person, I'm big on, and he's just like not really vibing with any of this. And Hakune taunts, "See, men cannot refuse those they love." And Natsu just whacks the fake Lucy on, and then just melts them all with his fire magic. As they all kind of do the whole kind of vibe, and Hakune is just kind of finally. I think it's the first time she opens her eyes there in shock. And Natsu responds, "They're just dolls. They smell totally different from the friends I love." And then Gray freezes the fake Juvia, plus the real one is crazier. And Happy, he's completely bought into it. Happy Sama. And Gray's just, "I don't even know what to say to you." And Natsu responds, "You can just keep doing that forever." And Hakune is a little bit nervous now. "I can't believe it, that this spell doesn't work. It is said that human feelings prevent you from striking, even if you know they are dolls. This is dirty." And then we see she kind of takes off her robe and grins. "Wonderful. It seems that I, Hakune, must sap you of your lives myself." And we see she's wearing is a questionable term here, but the kind of like joke bad fantasy video game women armor, like like the metal bikini vibe. It's like an ice bikini vibe, or an ice bikini, not a vibe. This is what it is, which is a choice. It is definitely a choice. It's a completely different vibe from what she had a couple of pages ago, which is kind of makes sense given that her first plan failed. But it's certainly a choice. And Gray and Natsu both feel the pressure that she's exuding. And Natsu voices, "What's this feeling?" And Hakune just grins at them as we move on to our last group, with Erza and Wendy and Youko. And we see Youko start a spell, Pandemonium, Itan Momen. Itan Momen means a roll of cotton is a Japanese cloth monster that strangles or smothers people to death. Okay, so it looks like her magic is to summon yokai, which fits in with her line last time about, "Now you will know the terror of a yokai," or whatever. So Wendy and Erza both react as this giant cloth monster forms and lunges at Erza. And Erza tries to cut it down, and she hits a robe of the cloth, but it just kind of bounces off of it. And Erza reacts, "It won't cut!" She starts to get bound up by the cloth. And Wendy calls, "Erza-san!" And she jumps out of the way, requip, into her, I can't quite tell what that form is. I know I recognize it vaguely. We can see like the flowers on her breast. But I don't remember the exact nature of the form. And Youko summons another creature, Pandemonium, Kasha. Kasha, meaning fire cart, is a Japanese monster that steals human corpses and carries them to hell, which fits the whole flaming monster on wheels thing that the Kasha is. It's a really cool design, by the way, much better than the Itan Momen. Yeah, I said that right. Itan Momen. That was just kind of there. The Kasha looks cool as hell. And the Kasha just like runs through Wendy and Carla. They're kind of thrown out of the way. And Carla looks at it. "What's happening? She's summoning creatures one after another." And we see Youko does some more hand signs, like something out of Naruto, and summons Enenra. Meaning smoky fabric is a Japanese monster made of smoke. Not as cool looking as the Kasha, but it's this giant hulking smoke golem. And Erza calls a smoke monster? This is a yokai. And the Enenra raises its fist and brings it down on Erza, Wendy, and Carla. Gwa! Kya! The smoke I can't breathe. Ugh. So yeah, it's kind of suffocating the three of them. And Yoko just responds, so you're unfit after all, huh? Unfit to be Celine-sama's toys. You're way too weak. And we see her with the three yokai. A really, really cool panel there. I love Yoko's power. Like the really cool creature designs that Mashima is bringing up for this is just really great. I cannot overstate how much I love the Kasha. Anyway, that's enough for you. Time to eat. And we see the two of them unconscious. To be continued next time. Okay, there is a lot to talk about here. Let's talk about the smaller points first. Let's first talk about the Mimi scene. Which is it's kind of basic. The chapter is very much just getting started on these fights, kind of introducing us to the three gods' basic power sets. We see the least out of Mimi. We just see the one that she's like really strong, incredibly like physically strong, and the one sword spell. But we also see perhaps how she'll go down. Which is very similar in vibe to, like, Jacob of the Spriggan 12, or Assault in Fire Force, and that she's just so horny that she can't focus. Which is, the interesting thing about it is that I've never seen that trope applied to a woman. I don't think ever seen that trope applied to a lesbian. Which Mimi is either she's distinctly attracted to women. She's might be bi. I think it's much more likely she's a lesbian for some reason. That's just the vibe she gives. Whatever the hell that means. But maybe she'll go. But like Tora's jokes last chapter about going for the art of seduction, and Lucy quips back that never works. Maybe it will this time. With Mimi, I'm not quite sure how much that story is working for me. But we'll see. I do enjoy Mimi. Mimi's a fun character, and I hope we see more of her. I hope she just gets a really fun, a good chunk of the story. I hope it's not. I hope that honestly for all of these, especially Mimi and Youko, Hakune, I'm kind of uneven on. I'll get on that later. But I hope it's not just this like one and done fight. I hope we see them throughout the Celine arc, and that they kind of, if they don't stick around for the rest of the series, at least give us more than just this one fight for them. Anyway, let's talk about Youko next, so we can save Hakune for last. Youko is really fun. I love her power. It honestly, I just kind of realized this, which should be a really obvious comparison. She's like a dark celestial spirit wizard, which would be which adds on to it's a good reason to have her continue past this fight with Erza and Wendy, to have a like yokai user versus celestial spirit user could be a really fun kind of mirroring thing. But mostly this is just letting us see how fun the yokai designs are, and how outmatched Erza and Wendy are here, as they're kind of knocked unconscious. So yeah, not looking too great there, and I don't know what can happen to help them here. There's still Toka and Ferris at this point, who could come in, because we still haven't seen them at all. But that's kind of all we get from that storyline. So now let's move to the big scene. And of course, that's the Hakune chapter. Or Hakune scene. And I'm trying to really... I'm trying to think of what else there is to say. Because I didn't spend a lot of time here in the video itself. Or in the reaction part of the video. There's still the question of why these 6 women show up for Natsu. Because, like, there still are plenty of other women in the guild. Sticking with fairly important characters, there's still Levi. There's still characters not in the guilds, like, who's not to spend time with outside of the guild? Hold on. Yukino, I guess. I that one didn't that one did not pan out, I will say. But even like other guild members like Laki or Kinana, who Natsu has spent maybe a little less time with compared to Kana. But Natsu and Kana don't have this big bond. Um, Unless this is implying that like they're because Natsu and Kana would have entered the guild at the same time as Erza and Gray and the Strauss siblings. Maybe there is a bigger friendship there that we don't get to see. I don't know. Kana's inclusion here is really interesting for me because he just doesn't really have that big a relationship with Kana. Miura to a lesser extent, but really Kana. Though I do like the distinct, it's not romance that brings Natsu here, or that summoned them. Like, Wendy is explicitly non-romantic, non-sexual. We don't see anything from Miura and Kana, which makes their inclusion really weird. They're just kind of there because, I don't know, Majima likes the number 6, I guess? I don't know. It's a weird thing. But yeah, I also do like the idea that, like, they know, that Natsu and Gray are not dumb enough to just, like, fall for Hakune's tricks. They're not gonna just, like, not attack an obvious monster because it looks like someone they care for. That's nice. And then we have the ice bikini, which, like I said, is a choice. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not automatically gonna bash it, I guess. I don't know. It's just a weird choice, and I'm harping on it an awful lot for a weird choice. But yeah, all in all, this chapter is just kind of moving the plot forward very slightly in some cases, and significantly in others. We see Hakune start to get serious. Erza and Wendy fall. But Lucy is just kind of getting started. And so we'll kind of see how... My big hope for this next part is that we don't keep doing this, check in on each group, and each group moves a little bit per chapter. It's the kind of thing that One Piece's Onigashima Raid is doing, and is why that storyline sometimes falls flat for me. Just, like, give us some good focus chapters here. Spend a chapter with Lucy's fight, one with Natsu and Gray's, one with Erza and Wendy's. And I'll be satisfied. But for now, that's all I have to say for this video. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, do whatever makes you happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!